Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Well, I can mark this off my bucket list now. I have spoken at the Rudder Auditorium, and probably the most empty seats. That's not y'all. Thank y'all for coming. So I like to subtitle this thing probably the Texas Asset Management, Transportation Asset Management Plan Part 2. We have a requirement, relatively new requirements that are federal and state. One, Magdi spoke to, under MAP 21, there are several different plans that are required in that legislation. One of them is this Texas Asset Management Plan, or the Transportation Asset Management Plan. We intend to meet those requirements by publishing our own, and nicknamed TexTamp. So if you have the Transportation Asset Management Plan, then we add the Texas to the front. And so what I would like to do is to just introduce you to your role in that process. If I can figure out. There we go. I did that, Tom, just so you would get up. All right, so I want to just cover some of the aspects of the asset management plans, the regulatory requirements, our own draft plan, and generally about the status, and then give y'all a charge. Who in here is accountable to somebody or something or some process? It should be 100%. Well, I saw some hands did not go up, so I want to be you. So everybody in general is accountable to something, somebody. And it just depends on the context of what you're looking at as to what you're accountable for. In this particular case, we are accountable as a state agency to federal requirements, and I should say that they are draft at this moment, and we do intend to achieve those requirements in the near future as we move forward. So in general, what do you have to do with roadway asset management? So another show of hands. How many of you fit the role that's listed on the screen? Who are decision makers? Who are you that are resource allocators, measurers, reporters, planners? That pretty much covers just about everybody. And so, the flippant thing is everybody is responsible and in some way has something to do with roadway asset management. So to give you the requirement, under MAP 21, just one of the plans that was drafted as a requirement under the legislation is this risk-based transportation asset management plan. Well, there's something called an NPRM, a notice of public, oh shoot, now yeah, whatever, anyway. What it is the rulemaking is what it is, public rulemaking. And so those are the rules that are published in the Federal Register, and those rules outline the specific requirements of the Transportation Asset Management Plan. It gives guidance as to what specific measures, what specific information is to be recorded in this. Well, coincidentally, in this last legislative session, the Texas legislature found reason to pass a bill that also holds us accountable for the methods in which we are allocating money, selecting projects, and that sort of thing. So, you know, I think it's fair to say that there is a really concerted effort and interest in holding people accountable or agencies accountable for the billions of dollars, literally billions of dollars that we are allocating each year to transportation assets. And so I think it's fair to expect that there will be information required of us to publish that information and make it readily available to the public. And that indeed is where we are headed with these requirements. So under MAP 21, it's a 10-year plan. And these requirements are, or the plan itself, is something that the Federal Highway Administration would like to have out there available to all public so that in terms of transparency, all public agencies, all transportation agencies are very transparent in their asset planning. So I will say the MPRM, because it's a rulemaking, it's out there right now and it's being reviewed. Comments have been returned back to the Federal Highway Administration and into the, I'm not exactly sure what the rest of the political associations are and how that gets spread around, but needless to say, they're reviewing all the comments from all the transportation agencies and will issue a final rulemaking at an unknown date. Some talk has been April of next year. So we have just a little window to continue working on what exists as a draft right now. So asset management in general, this is just my take on stuff. Just keep our stuff in good shape, right, for as long as possible. And then when it's no longer feasible to, if it's not cost effective to continue to repair that thing, then let's go ahead and replace it. So that's just in general an entire assessment of an asset management program for virtually anything. But in this particular case, we're talking about transportation assets. And in general, with MAP 21, we're talking about some specific assets, and I'll get to that in a little bit. In addition to the publishing requirements and the time requirements for having the Transportation Asset Management Plan available, these are the items that actually need to appear in the plan. So we're talking about a performance asset analysis or gap analysis. Where are we as opposed to where should we be? And let me just jump forward real quick. In terms of the assets that we're talking about, specifically interstate pavements, non-NHS pavements, okay, so it's the gratuitous picture, right? And I'm sorry I didn't have the updated picture for this, but since my money is going here anyway, I figured I'd put that in. And then NHS bridges, okay? So it's not all of the roadway assets unless we choose it to be. So at this point, under the draft plan, we have not chosen to include all assets. So as a result, it's these three categories and I hope I can jump back now. So the performance gap analysis on those particular assets, we currently have processes in place to measure the performance of our pavements, to measure the performance of our bridges. The issue comes in that we don't necessarily measure them the same way as other transportation agencies, and how the Fed has actually identified it in that rulemaking. So we've got a little bit of work to do to adjust the way in which we're doing this thing. We will then have a time to do our network level life cycle cost analysis based upon the performance that we're actually seeing from those assets. How long is it going to last? How much is it going to take to replace? A risk management analysis. In this particular case, the feds are talking about those assets that are continuously having to be replaced. A financial plan. How are you going to pay for this? And investment strategies. Which projects or which assets are you going to actually fund for what type of treatment or possibly replacement? So just in one quick slide here, in terms of a business structure, this is the way the asset management plan is constructed. A steering committee was formulated, had inputs and gathered information for all of the inputs into the TAMP. And then there are our normal business processes. We go out and we let contracts, we build them, we maintain them, we do all kinds of different activities to support that. Once it's that particular practice is completed, we have an effectiveness review and revise our goals appropriately to try and meet the goals that we are identifying. So in terms of the program assessment, these are the things that here's the transportation asset management plan, here are the performance measures, and what we don't want to do is get over here to the penalty phase, which is if we did not meet our goals for NHS bridges or interstate pavements. So in the interest of time, we know about these tactical activities. We actually perform maintenance and such. So I'll go past this, but I will identify this one little item here of the 4-year plan. And so these are the items that we are actually generating as things that need to be done on our system. Okay, so the draft was completed in 2014 by Dye Management. We're going to continue to revise that throughout this fiscal year and seek a Federal Highway Administration certification. Just very quickly, what we're speaking of is this is the notice of rulemaking. There will be a final rulemaking. That's that April time frame approximately. We'll have 12 months to have a Federal Highway Administration certification of our processes, and then our analysis will be an 18-month window to meet. So it's not aggressive, but it is certainly something that we need to make hay while the sun is shining. So what do you have to do with it, asset management? Everything. You guys are the ones who make things happen, and you're touching each and every part of that asset management plan. And so the charge to you is, are you going to respond to this new system here in terms of performing asset management and being held responsible for that. So we'll be discussing those individual items with the various divisions and the districts as they develop their programs in the four-year pavement management plan. And hopefully certainly by the end of 12 months after that final rulemaking and 18 months, we'll have a certified process and meet those federal requirements. So with that, I'll entertain any questions.